Welcome to A Reason to Talk with Chris Reason. On today's episode, wow, I can't talk anymore. Ironic. On today's episode of A Reason to Talk is on the serial killers Joshua Anderson and Stephen Wayne Anderson, no relation. Before we get into today's episode, let's hear from the Dev with a message.
Hey, my name's the Dev, aka the Prince of Hardcore. If you're not watching the Christopher Reasons podcast, what the fuck are you doing in life? Go watch that shit, like and subscribe on his YouTube channel, and go fuck yourself.
This is A Reason to Talk with Chris Reason. Joshua Julius Anderson, born June 17, 1987, is an American serial killer who shot 4 to 5 people to death in northern Tulsa, Oklahoma, between late 2006 and early 2007. He was arrested on the same day as his final 2 murders and confessed soon afterwards. He was He was sentenced to 4 life terms and an additional 35 years imprisonment. Makes sense. Joshua Julius Anderson was born on June 17, 1997. Little is known about his childhood. This is going to be a shorter episode, just an FYI. That's kind of what I did the two together. At age 15, he was accused of shooting with intent to kill in Muskogee. Wow, I can't talk anymore. However, the warrant was recalled less than a month later. In June 2005, he was charged with kidnapping, concealing stolen property, and domestic assault and battery. As part of a plea deal, he pleaded guilty to the kidnapping and assault counts, but the stolen property charge was dismissed. He was sentenced to 90 days in jail. 1 month later, he was charged with shooting another person, but the case was dismissed a month later due to weak witness testimony. All of the murders were committed within a few blocks of each other in a neighborhood just north of downtown Tulsa. The area was known for its drug problem. Anderson, who lived near the murder scenes, he was known as a neighborhood bully and caused fear throughout the town. He had no victim profile and murdered victims regardless of their race, age, or gender. At the time of his arrest, Anderson had committed a third of Tulsa's homicides that year. On November 5th, 2006, the 34-year-old Evaristo Tobias Jr., armed with a knife, was looking for drugs. A fight between him and A.C. Anderson, Joshua's brother, subsequently developed, during which they beat up Tobias. Joshua then produced a double-barreled shotgun and fired at Tobias once, hitting him twice. He then stole the knife from Tobias's body because he liked the way it looked and fled the scene, shotgun in hand. On January 23, 2007, 30-year-old Christopher Monroe, wanting drugs, walked with Joshua and AC to a drug dealer. There, an argument developed, and Monroe retrieved an ice pick. Joshua fatally shot him with a .22 caliber revolver and robbed his body of $3 before fleeing in his brother's car. That's fucking nothing. On the same day, witnesses saw Anderson shoot David Gilbert, 26, to death for revenge, as the two had an altercation earlier that day. However, he was never charged with that killing due to insufficient evidence. On February 2, 2007, AC told Joshua that 52-year-old Herbert Hobbs had money in his pocket. Joshua, armed with a revolver, went to the Hobbs home with the intention of robbing Herbert. Upon arriving at the residence, he tied up Herbert and his 69-year-old mother, Rosemary, and stole $300. Joshua then left the house but returned because the victims had seen his face. Although they had freed themselves, Joshua threatened them with his revolver. At gunpoint, he forced the two to engage in sexual acts with each other before fatally shooting them. Afterwards, he ate part of Rosemary's brain. He proceeded to douse the house in gasoline and set it ablaze before fleeing. What the fuck? On the same day as the final 2 murders, he was arrested for first-degree rape in Muskogee, I can't pronounce this shit, County, which he had been wanted for since late November. Investigators quickly connected him to the murders, and he was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of first-degree arson, and 1 count of assault and battery with a deadly weapon. Anderson confessed to the crimes after being shown a tape in which his brother blamed him. During the confession, he provided details only the perpetrator could know, such as location and position of the bodies. Because he was mentally disabled, prosecutors decided to not seek the death penalty. They also decided to try him separately for each murder. Anderson's trial for the Hobbs murders began on October 22, 2008. Testimony lasted 2 days. His attorney, a public defender, argued during closing arguments that there was no physical evidence linking Anderson to the murders, nor was there any evidence presented of the fire being started with an accelerant. I can't pronounce that. After 2 hours of deliberation, the jury of 7 women and 5 men found Anderson guilty on all charges. He was given 2 life sentences as well as an additional 25 years of arson. On December 8, 2008, he pleaded guilty to the murders of Tobias and Modrow and an assault on a deadly weapon, with a deadly weapon. He was given 2 more life sentences and an additional 10 years imprisonment. He is now serving his sentences at the Lexington Assessment of Reception Center, LARC, in Lexington, Oklahoma. Moving on to Stephen Wayne Anderson. Stephen Wayne Anderson, born July 8, 1953, was an American contract killer and serial killer who was executed at California's San Quentin State Prison, San Quentin, by lethal injection in 2002 for the murder of Elizabeth Lyman. He was either known to have killed or admitted to the killings of at least 8 other people, including a fellow inmate and at least 7 contract killings. I want you guys to look at the thumbnail that we have for this episode, and Stephen is on the right. Just look at that fucking creepy-ass smile. You know he didn't give one shit. Fucking deranged. Well, that and also being a contract killer. Stephen Wayne Anderson was born July 8, 1953, the older of 2 boys born to an alcoholic father with a violent temper and an emotionally abusive mother who kicked both Stephen and his brother out of their home when he was 14. They began living with friends and relatives following the ban. Anderson committed his first violent crime in 1971 when he burglarized a school in Farmington, New Mexico. During the robbery, he threatened 2 police officers. He was convicted of burglary and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was paroled out on that count in 1975, but continued to serve a sentence of 10 to 50 years on multiple aggravated burglary convictions. Anderson was sent out of state to the Utah State Prison while he was there. He killed a fellow inmate named Blundell on August 24, 1977. He also assaulted another inmate and assaulted a correctional officer. May 26, 1980, Anderson, then 26, burglarized the Bloomington, California house of 81-year-old Elizabeth Lyman, a retired piano teacher. In the middle of the night, Anderson cut Lyman's telephone line with a knife and broke into her home by removing a glass pane from her French doors. He checked the house for occupants room by room. When he entered Lyman's bedroom, she awoke and screamed. Anderson shot her in the face from close range with a .45 caliber handgun, fatally wounding her. He covered her body with a blanket, recovered the expelled casing from the hollow point bullet that killed her, and ransacked her house for money. He found less than $100. Oh, that got you nowhere. Anderson then prepared himself a meal in Lyman's kitchen. A suspicious next-door neighbor called the sheriff's department as he was eating and watching television. He did not give one fuck. I think he wanted to be caught. Watching television, sheriff's deputies responded to the call and arrested him. He admitted to the murder. Anderson later told the detectives that I was born and trained to be a killer. I was always wanted to be a killer. See, he didn't care. He wanted to do it. Anderson admitted to 6 other contract killings in Las Vegas, Nevada that happened prior to the crime for which he received a death sentence. On November 24, 1979, he escaped from prison, after which he worked for narcotics traffickers and committed at least 1 murder in the eastern mountains of St. Lucie City, Utah. Salt Lake County, Utah. On July 24, 1981, Anderson was convicted and sentenced to death. The prosecution pointed to his violent history both in and out of prison as evidence that he was too dangerous to be kept alive. Here is what they said. So remember that when you consider what he's done and what he's testified to, this particular individual is a sociopath. He cannot live with anybody. He cannot get along with anybody. He kills people everywhere. He stabs people everywhere. He has stabbed an individual in prison, and you'll have the court documents that show where he pled guilty. And he admitted that he, while in Utah State Prison, sitting in a movie, he stabbed an inmate there. And as a result of that stabbing, he was convicted of aggravated assault by a prisoner with a deadly weapon. He stabbed Mr. Blundell and killed Mr. Blundell while he was in prison. He admitted that he killed him. He told you that just before he came down here from San Quentin, he got into a fight with the people in San Quentin, and his housing was changed because of his fighting. There is no place that anybody is going to be safe from this individual. He looks out for old number 1, and that's all he's concerned with. And forget about the rest of the world. What a fucking statement. And that couldn't be even more truer. It was true. On January 29, 2002, Anderson was executed by lethal injection at San Quentin State Prison. He was pronounced dead at 12:30 a.m. Pacific time. Anderson's last meal consisted of 2 grilled cheese sandwiches with radishes. Why fucking radishes? That's right there. You saw somebody that's crazy. No, I'm just kidding. 1 pint of cottage cheese, hominy corn mixture, 1 slice of peach pie, and 1 pint of chocolate chip ice cream. He had no last words. So this was a shorter episode. That Stephen Wayne Anderson being a fucking contract killer. You could just see by his fucking mugshot that he was addictive. Whatever the fuck the word I'm looking for is. He's fucking crazy, motherfucker. But anyways, thank you for listening to today's episode of Reason Talk with Bruce Reason. Hit that follow button on all major podcast platforms. Hit subscribe on YouTube. And peace and bacon grease, guys.
This is a reason to talk.